Welcome to Talking Real Estate with John Gibson, and our special guest, fair to say, runs one of Australia's largest sporting organisations. The Group CEO of the Sydney Roosters and Easts Group, appointed Sydney Roosters CEO in April of 2017 by one of Australia's most influential businessmen, a giant in rugby league. That would be the chairman, Mr. Nick Politis, certainly the godfather of the Red, White and Bluesters, chartered with overseeing approximately 163 million in net assets. A commerce degree specialising in accounting and commerce from the University of Newcastle, leading to nothing short of a superstar CV in the world of sports administration. Head of Finance, Gibbo, Chelsea FC 2002 through 2007. CFO, South Sydney Rabbitohs. Wow, and he was able to come back to the Roosters. That's 8 years, 2007 through 2014. CEO of the Sea Eagles, 2014 through 2016. He was appointed director of the New South Wales Rugby League, February of 2023, I believe, and he was appointed an independent director of the USA Rugby League board in 2024. And that's quite a story, and look forward to touching in that space as well. As we welcome Mr. Joe Kelly, Talking Real Estate with John Gibson, your co-host, Mark Warren. Great to see you, Joe. Gibbo.
Joe,
thanks very much for having us on board.
Great to see you. Just before we kick it off, mate, what's your morning ritual?
Morning ritual? Generally the gym. I didn't do it this morning, late night last night after a great game out there at Combank Stadium against the Panthers, but a little bit late in this morning. But normally into the gym, Pilates, weights or a bit of cardio, a bit of stretching, 3 or 4 mornings a week at least.
Yeah, good on you. I dare say after that very competitive game last night, you're going to be fairly reserved with all this. Things are looking positive. We're on the up. The Roosters are looking good.
Did you say where? So you're a Rooster?
Well, yeah, of course. Things are looking optimistic.
Yeah, no, absolutely. It was a really, really good performance last night. I think the best we've seen from the team, for a long while. Certainly, goal line defence was extraordinary. We're in a good spot. No one's getting carried away with themselves, and there's still plenty to do. Obviously, 3 more games, all at Allianz Stadium, by the way. Leading into the finals, and also we've got our women's team, our NRLW team, playing tomorrow night up in Brisbane, who are undefeated after 6 weeks of the competition too.
Really enjoying the NRLW.
Yeah, so they're going great. They had a great season last year, a few injuries at the back end of the year, which really hurt them leading into the GF itself. Really optimistic about what the season looks like, but no one's getting carried away internally.
We're not just talking Australia here. Let's talk USA. What's happening there?
Yeah, well, interestingly, our LA Roosters team, which we started a couple of years ago, have won their West Coast Conference. And what happens over there is there's 4 teams playing in California, and we've won that conference. What happens now is we're waiting on the winner of the East Coast, and that's between teams based down in Florida and teams up in the northeast of the US. The winner of that will then play the LA Roosters for the national championship on the 29th of August in LA. We get to host it this year, so it goes from one side of the country to the other side of the country.
Can I just butt in? I do that occasionally. Segue. A bloke told me the other week that they are originally not the LA Roosters. They were in fact called the Yellow Banditos. Am I correct?
Yeah, that was the name.
Is there any association? You're patched up.
You're certainly spot on there, Mark. That was the case. And what happened is probably around the time that I joined the board of the the USA board, I was speaking to our chairman of the board actually, and I said, look, we're really interested as a club in establishing a team here. It's an amateur competition, so everyone's amateur over there, and that includes the board of the USA. Everyone's a volunteer. There's not a single paid employee, except for the refs get a few dollars to ref a game. But we wanted to sort of make our first foray into the USA, as the NRL had done around the same time with Vegas. We thought it was a good opportunity for us to get on board with the NRL's vision of growing the sport also into the US as well, into that market, and we know what that sports market's like. It's enormous, but it's also a very tough one to penetrate as well, particularly with a sport like rugby league, which is not well known really in the US. Rugby's got a large participation base. 30,000 in college, and a lot more playing the game. It's a professional competition called the Major League Rugby as well. So anyway, we wanted to get into starting a team over there, and the easiest way for us to do that, rather than start from ground zero, was have a chat to an owner, if you can call him that. Great fella. He's a coach. He's a rugby coach, a rugby player, but then moved across into rugby league himself a few years ago. Emiliano Nash is his name. And Emiliano had started this team called the LA Banditos, as you mentioned, Mark.
Well, I was just someone mentioned it to me the other. I thought it was quite, and I was a big Sons of Anarchy fan. But I digress.
So we quickly rebranded that LA Roosters, and it's really really pleasing to see right now that on both sides of the Pacific, we're sitting on top of the table. Both in LA and back here in Sydney. So they're waiting for their opponent to be announced, I think after this weekend coming up. And then the 29th, they play for the National Championship, which will start to get them we'll start getting a bit of exposure for them back here in Australia fairly soon too. But it's an amateur team, so the coach has come out of retirement. He's back playing again as well. And they play
pretty
from
cool, huh?
They play from right up in Sacramento. Not too far out of San Fran, all the way down to San Diego. And they're passionate. We've gone over the last couple of years and had an LA Roosters Nines team, which we've taken a lot of our players from here, sort of more the up and comers from the male side of it. So we had guys that are sort of playing reserve grade, playing under 19s, that sort of thing. Flag. We took probably 8 or 9. Male players across this year, but we took like 10 NRLW players across for the Nines in Vegas. But to be fair to our LA Roosters, because that's the team that we actually register for the Vegas Nines, we also have a good number of those local players playing alongside our elite professional athletes, which is just wonderful to see.
So what, Gibbo, should we stay there on this? And you're in charge of our questions. You've done a lot of homework here, Gibbo. You were talking to us over a coffee just moments ago about outreach and helping some of the kids there in LA, which is a very different climate in certain parts. Wonderful stuff, and an association with the LAPD. Yeah,
absolutely. We even had the firefighters along this year as well. LA Fire Department came along, but that's the last 2 years. Leading into Vegas, as we've taken our Nines teams out there, and this year the Nines flew straight into Vegas, so they weren't able to join us in LA. But the previous year they were there to help manage a day at a school on a Saturday down in Watts, down in a tough, challenging part of LA. The kids are sort of probably got a American football background, but ultimately there's a charity called Project Blue that works with the LAPD, and it's all about building respectful relationships in these communities so that the police aren't seen as going in just to arrest someone. They're there to be, we're friends. We want to support you guys. Yeah, kind of that sort of thing. And so they jumped on board with us 2 years ago, and are really delighted to be able to run a program that's a bit different from the norm. So it's a rugby league program. So we've got all these kids, experiencing rugby league for the very first time, and as we know,
it's a good conduit, isn't it?
It's a great conduit. And I remember last year, as the kids walked in with their parents into the school in Watts, it's a high school, no kid looked at you in the face when they walked in. I shook everyone's hand as they came into the school, onto the field. And then by the end of the day, you had them milling around you, listening to conversations you were having with others, and all shaking your hand and saying goodbye at the end of the day. You'd built that sort of level of relationship already in a 2 or 3 hour window. But the LAPD had, chief of the LAPD was there this year. They fly the helicopter. They fly one of the LAPD helicopters over the training field that we train the kids on for the day.
Wow!
Circle around the field. 100, 200 feet in the air and put the sirens on and put the lights on and, sort of say hello to everyone on the ground. So it's awesome.
Yeah.
That's great stuff. Let's imagine you're a young player at the Roosters. You just signed a 4-year contract. 500 grand's just been transferred in your account. Tell me how you're going to spend that money in relation to, are you going to invest in property? What are you looking at? Where are you buying?
Oh, that's a good question. I'm not the real estate expert, but I would say from my little experience, I know my numbers, and my little experience in real estate, it's a.
Or would you park the money in the bank, leave it there? If you want to get ahead.
One or two things. Like I think, it depends on where the market's at right now. We were all hearing the commentary around where the real estate market is at the moment, but I've also learned over time that a good thing is when prices are depressed, jump in then. So we know interest rates are a bit high at the moment, but ultimately I think everyone's forecasting they will come down into 27. We've had good experiences personally as investing in property.
Yeah.
That's where I think a lot of people make their wealth from.
Yes.
And it's safe to a certain extent. So I would certainly definitely be recommending that young players coming through establish an investment portfolio for their future.
Are you borrowing?
I think you've got to. I think leveraging is important. I think and then
500 grand's not going to get you too far.
And then creating equity again, in property to then go again.
Yeah,
I think that's what the secret is. Is you create enough equity then to be able to finance against that into the future as well.
Yeah, even rent vesting. Like buying an area you're not necessarily going to live in.
Yeah.
Yeah, build some equity into it and
absolutely.
Then go again.
Yeah, absolutely. In terms of areas, I'm not too au fait with where you'd specifically invest, but
well, that's when you talk to me.
Locate, negotiate. This is Talking Real Estate with John Gibson, residential buyer's agent, commercial buyer's agent, commercial tenant representation, seller's advocacy, consult and research services. Locate, negotiate. Joe, smart advice, expert guidance, better property outcomes. You simply search John Gibson's Locate, Negotiate, and we won't cut. We will go, welcome back and continue with the show. Where were we?
So, Joe, where did you grow up?
Grew up in Scone in the Hunter Valley. So, Upper Hunter. Went to local primary school there. Did a couple of years at high school there as well, but it's sort of like either side of that. I went away in year 7 to Woodlawn up in St John's College, Lismore, which was a rugby league school back in the 80s, a competitive rugby league school that always got down here to Sydney back in the 80s. Got to a point where we'd play against St Greg's, Campbelltown,
Woodlawn?
Fairfield. Yeah, Woodlawn, yeah. Yeah, a good
I was
rugby.
calling the Commonwealth Bank Cup.
Yeah,
and I remember going to Lismore to call Woodlawn.
Yeah.
Never forget it. A tremendous rugby league. Agricultural college, correct?
Greg's was.
St Greg's was,
and as well.
Farrer would have been too.
Farrer.
So we always met Farrer on the way to Sydney, basically. They were our sort of nemesis, and we always met them as we're making our way down through the regional sort of divisions.
Yeah, you got it.
Yeah, and they were like probably our arch rival, I suppose.
Yeah.
But we had a good footy program, but we weren't like probably some of these schools in Sydney that were just recruiting students to play rugby league.
You're not mentioning people like St Gregory's College of Campbelltown or Fairfield Patrician Brothers.
Well, there are a couple of schools that beat us. Like I think we got beaten by St Greg's in a grand final out of the old Parramatta Stadium.
The great late Peter Mulholland. Skull, great guy.
I remember.
My old man went to St Greg's.
Did he?
Yeah.
My brother did too.
I remember when I was in year 7, our year 12 team was a really good team. Like Luke Beasley was in that team. Luke finished up playing at the Roosters, in the centres, the Australian schoolboy. We got pumped, I think, in the semi-final by Patrician Brothers Fairfield, 20-0. I remember playing golf with Greg Alexander fairly recently. Yeah. It's the first time I've ever mentioned it. I said, mate, I remember...
Similar age, you and Brandon?
Well, he was in that team that beat us 20-0.
Yeah.
I was in year 7.
And you had a fair side.
He was in year 12. We had a fair side.
Yeah.
And I said, I remember that game. I think you scored all 20 points, Brandy.
Wouldn't surprise me. I think he scored 3 tries in the cup final that very same year.
Yeah.
Freak.
Yeah.
Total freak.
Yeah. So I grew up in Scone, mainly out on a little bit of land, but we weren't farmers or anything like that. We just had 10 acres out of town, just out of Scone on Middlebrook Road.
Yeah. No thoroughbreds on that property?
No thoroughbreds. We had a horse. We had a horse and a cow and some farm animals, but that was about it. But so 10 acres just out of town. We moved out there when I was about 10 or 12 years of age. Grew up in town itself. Was born in the local hospital.
Your parents were rural people?
Yeah, Dad was in the mines.
Oh, right.
And Mum worked for the agriculture department actually.
Yeah.
So Dad was in the mines. Yeah.
The grassroots, because everyone's saying, we didn't know where was grassroots, and there's a lot of agriculture there, a lot of farming,
absolutely,
and mining. How did you end up in administration? Was it always the plan, or what did the opportunity perhaps find you? I suppose that goes back to our introduction and your university degree.
Yeah. So when I chose to do a commerce degree, majoring in accounting, that was more of a sort of a safe landing point. Mm-hmm. It was like, what's going to give me the best opportunity to get a job and a reasonable job, and use your university degree wisely to actually lead somewhere. So that was the reason for that degree. Obviously, it was pretty close to home where I finished up going. Newcastle, used to head back home quite regularly as well, back to Scone. But always loved sport. I played rugby league only to about year 10.
Yes.
Played up there. So I went to school up there in year 7, left in year 8 and 9 because I was 12 or 13 years of age, and a little bit sort of homesick, etc. So I went back home to Scone, and then went back up and did 10, 11 and 12, which I absolutely thoroughly loved. But sort of by then, my rugby league career was sort of coming to a bit of an end. I was a winger with a little bit of pace and nothing else. And golf's been sort of my sort of my sporting passion, which I'm continuing to play to today.
How often
cricket.
do you hit them?
Most weekends if I can get out.
Oh, there?
Yeah, so I'll be on the tee tomorrow about midday.
Where you remember?
Up at Monash.
Yeah, nice.
Up at Monash, yeah. So I'll be out there tomorrow when it doesn't clash with a Roosters fixture.
Yeah.
I'm out there. So I get about 30 games a year, and my wife would say I play twice a week, but I can tell you from my Golf Link portfolio of scores for the year, I get about 30 games a year.
Go and play with him.
Yeah.
Oh my God! And I can't hit.
Any good?
No.
Well, no, he gets in your head.
Does he?
Father like son.
Yeah.
Don't try and hit a ball after he's had a discussion before you hit the.
Yeah, wow.
I'm more than very average, mate. Very average. Yeah. Very average.
Yeah. So really enjoy sport. Like a lot of us, we love our sport, and like you probably introed it, Mark. It probably fell into my lap really in a way. I'd just finished my degree at Newcastle Uni. In the old days, this will, for any younger listeners, they can't comprehend this, but you used to see job ads in the paper, in the newspaper.
There's a concept.
Like little ads in the paper. I responded to one without knowing where the actual job was, other than it was advertised something along the lines of progressive sporting organisation on the North Shore of Sydney is looking for an accountant. So I apply for the job. I get a phone call or whatever back saying, can you come down to the North Sydney Leagues Club for an interview?
Wow.
So I then sort of put 2 and 2 together, and obviously that's the North Sydney Bears. So I came down for an interview. This is the start of 1995. Had the interview. Got asked, one of those questions, those curly questions you always get asked in an interview. Do you support rugby league? And of course you say yes. Do you support the Bears? And I go no, but I could be easily convinced. And from there,
did you have the confidence to say that?
I did. And I know later on, talking to some of the guys that interviewed me who became good mates, they said that was sort of a bit of the clincher for you in the interview. So I started there in '95, around the time that those words Super League were first uttered, which was really interesting.
Or you could say the battle for pay television, whichever take your pick.
Yeah.
People, if you know, you know. Yeah.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
And just take us on that journey from, through sport, being a CEO, and where you are today.
Yeah, so that was 5 years there. I did that at the Bears, and that included moving to the Central Coast. So, I was only up in the Central Coast on Sunday night. Our NRLW team played up there.
Gotcha.
At 6:15 last Sunday in the cold and the pouring rain.
Yeah.
But that stadium that's there at Central Coast, that was funded by both state and federal government money. both sides of politics, Labor
Yes.
and Liberal.
Yes.
And you won't believe it, $20 million built that stadium, 10
Yep.
from each government. Okay,
Yep.
so I moved up to the Central Coast in 1999, I think it was,
Wow.
to work on that stadium build. And then what happened, unfortunately, is Norths, the Bears, sort of fell into a bit of hard times financially. Probably moved a bit early.
Northern Eagles.
Well,
one?
yeah, it's sort of just before that. So when
Yeah.
they went up as the Bears, were playing games still back here in Sydney, but actually were based up on the Central Coast. Went a little bit too early, and therefore that led to the merger.
May I suggest something? The reason, and I'm rugby league man, knows nothing about soccer, the world game, but I think the Central Coast Mariners got it right. I lived up there for 10 years and been going out there since I was 5 years of age.
Yep.
They were the Central Coast Mariners. They weren't Northern Eagles.
Exactly.
They were embraced. Laurie McKenna. Every
Yep.
time I think of Laurie McKenna and Graham Arnold and those
Yeah.
people. And they're also in a very bad predicament, Gibbo, because ground zero, and the Roosters found it, is the Central Coast. It doesn't matter which game the NRL take to that stadium, you're going to get a crowd.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, so so the full circle is we're back there now, and we've been there for a good 12 years as the Roosters. That's our actual, also our junior area, along with the eastern suburbs. So under an arrangement that was done back in about 2015, the Central Coast is, through this with the CRL, which is now obviously merged into the New South Wales Rugby League, is a Sydney Roosters area. So we've got our Sydney Roosters under 17s and 19s, Central Coast Roosters, elite pathways programs.
Yeah.
Lisa Fiala up there in the under 17s
Your
women's.
minor bunny, just over here.
Yeah, and the Harvey Norman, open age
Well done.
women's team up there. So, 7,500 participants on the Central Coast now. It's a real key, sort of pathways asset for us. So I did the 5 years there, which then rolled into the Northern Eagles for a very short period of time, and then went across to the Waratahs for 12 months and did 12 months at the Waratahs in 2000. So I went with a guy
Who was coaching them then?
Just trying to think. I can't remember who was coaching, to be honest. But I went with so what happened with the Northern Eagles? Well, Manly and North's been put together. Frank Stanton was the CEO of the Northern Eagles, so he was the Manly CEO at the time.
Yes.
A guy called Danny Harley, sort of from the Met North side, became the 2IC, and I went as the CFO or financial controller or whatever it was back in those days. Danny then got sort of headhunted to New South Wales Rugby to run as CEO, and about 3 or 4 months later asked me to come across, and I jumped across to rugby for 12 months. And we only did 12 months there, to be honest, both of us. And then I moved to the UK. I went to Dublin, first of all, did 12 months working in a bank. It's the only job I've had outside of sport since 1995. Enjoyed that. Just worked at Barclays Bank in Stevens Green in Dublin.
Barclays Bank.
Just Barclays, biggest, one of the biggest banks in the UK. But yeah, my family. So when I talk about the parents earlier on, Dad's from Dublin. Okay. So Dad came out here in the 60s. So I went over to sort of reconnect with the family, the Irish side of the family in Dublin. So spent a year there, met my wife in Dublin, and then we moved to London together because my wife's from the UK. So we moved back to London and spent 5 years there in London.
Most people see the Roosters as an NRL club changing tact. It's a large organisation with many tentacles across football and a range of associated businesses. Can you give us an insight into what your role as a CEO involves?
Yeah. So I think in the intro that I started at the Roosters in 2017 as the CEO of the Roosters, and then in 2020 the CEO of our East Group, which is our licensed club portfolio, which had 5 licensed clubs in it at that point in time. The CEO left and went to Revesby Workers. So Nick and the board asked me whether I'd take on a dual role of running both football club and the licensed club portfolio. So grabbed that with both hands. It's been great. It's really broadened my skill set, to be honest, and working with guys like Nick. It's been a wonderful experience. Just getting involved in more property side of things, to be honest, as well. We had 5 licensed clubs, as I say, and some commercial real estate around Bondi Junction, in particular. We sold one of those clubs, which was the Woy Woy Club, Waverley Leagues Club. So we sold that in 2020 during COVID. So we're down to 4 licensed clubs now, which are Bondi Junction, the flagship club that everyone knows as East Leagues. We've got Waverley Greens, which was the old Waverley Bowling Club, right next to Waverley College there, which we've redeveloped and opened back up in 2023 with 55 apartments for the over 55s. A brand new club, new bowling greens, a wonderful venue if you've ever been past it or been into it. Great setup, really strong.
Is that where Justin Hems has created?
No, he's not. No, he's down at Rose Bay.
Rose Bay, because I'm sure there was a bowling. It was a bowling.
Yeah, he's Rose Bay. Rose Bay RSL, I think it is. Yeah, so we've got a really good little F&B set up down there at Waverley Greens. Then we've got a club down the south coast, the other side of Wollongong, called Kingswood Sports. Called Berkeley Sports, and then Kingswood Sports out at Penrith.
Strategically placed.
So
not far from St Mary's.
No. So that's our sort of 4 clubs in the portfolio. Then wrapping around that, we've got an array of sort of properties in our portfolio around Bondi Junction in particular. A service station out in Lithgow that we bought, sort of in and around COVID. And then some property up in Queensland as well, and going through COVID, we know what that did to everyone, and we know that how everything shut down, and that our licensed clubs and our football club even for a period of time was shut. The only revenue sources that we had coming in for a period of time were our sort of regional investments. Yeah. So like they never stopped, So we're out there at Lithgow and in Queensland, and obviously just that diversification across even states during a pandemic like that. As we know, different states did different things in terms of locking down. So, it sort of just gives us a really good asset base and
good diversity.
Good diversity, and we've grown that, as you say, to in the vicinity of 170 million at this point in time.
Future proofing.
Yeah,
and I think the NRL is sort of. They've done these, the latest deal. The Volandis is on the front foot with their obviously buying assets, property assets, and which they never really had.
No, never had any. Never had any until Peter got on board. And
Are we saying that PVL's followed the Roosters' footprint? I'm just saying, Mr. Volandis, hey, no such thing as a new idea.
I'll let you say that, absolutely.
Oh, no, hey.
Absolutely.
And we're talking real estate with John Gibson. John Gibson's Locate, Negotiate, and our special guest, one of Australia's leading sports administrators from the Roosters, the East Group, Mr. Joe Kelly.
So as a CEO, what keeps you awake at night?
That's a really good question. What keeps me awake at night? There's a lot of stuff going on, particularly
because there'd never be a dull moment.
No, there's never a dull moment, and it's governance and legislation and things like that right now. Our licensed club industry as such, it's been in the spotlight for a period of time around gaming reform. And even that sort of transcends into the sporting side of it too, with changes that'll look like being made around sports betting and revenue streams that are attached to that, which support the game. Let's be honest, support the game of rugby
100%. Gold Coast surf clubs are allowed to have poker machines.
And we,
and all they do is support the community.
And all of our clubs, are really supportive of their local community, charities and organisations. So a lot of our money goes back. I think what's a bit of a misnomer in licensed club land or directed at licensed club land is that we make these vast profits. Well, what we do is we actually return those funds directly back into the community, into their pockets, to help support surf life saving. You name it. We do it. Various charities in our area, and then secondly, we enhance the facilities that we have for our members. So, we might only provide about 3% of what we call club grants, but in actual fact probably only retain about 3% because the rest of it goes in employment locally. It goes in infrastructure upgrades. It's all for the benefit of our members. So I think that the industry is under some level of pressure regarding the way that the reforms will roll out possibly over time, and that's why being an astute organisation and led by Nick, and the board being proactive in getting ahead of the curve with that and diversifying the asset
board
base.
it is. What a board it is. Some good people there.
Great people. Great board.
Rico told me it was a dictatorship.
You sit on the New South Wales Rugby League board. How different is it stepping away from the interests of one club and thinking about what's best for the game more broadly?
Yeah, and I always feel like even when I joined that board, I joined as a representative of the clubs. So I've been sort of
Poached?
supported. I've been supported by the metropolitan clubs. So I represent the metropolitan clubs along with another fellow board member in Kevin Green, who was the ex-sports minister here in New South Wales. So Kevin's the chair of the Referees Association, and that sort of sits in the collective of what's called regional metropolitan members. So it's all the NRL clubs that you'd know, but it's also the likes of St George and Illawarra, and it's Wenties, and it's all these other clubs that Newtown Jets,
Wendy Leagues, Giants,
the Bears,
Yeah.
North Sydney Bears. So they're the metropolitan clubs. So I represent those guys, and I've always felt that even representing the Roosters at the NRL and in CEO conferences, etc., I tend to look at it through a lens of what's in the best interest of the game, and let's ensure that this game of ours, which we all love, is only evolving and growing, and is going to be, really a viable, sort of sporting organisation and code into the future. So, sort of found it really enjoyable. What we're seeing in New South Wales and across Australia is participation numbers, are just growing, really, really strongly, led by females playing the game.
This is the grassroots coming through.
So we're over. We just announced
women
last.
participation's is going
Off
great.
the charts.
Off the charts, yeah. It's been double-digit growth, per annum for a while. But we're over 125. We just announced it last week. We're over 125,000 playing the game here in New South Wales right now.
Yeah.
And that's just growing year on year on year. So really, really positive to see. Really, really good organisation. Well run, and we're doing some really good things too, like through the board as well. We're just doing our second round of infrastructure grants right now that goes out to the regional clubs, and that is like literally applying for funding, and then we give we sort of go through that, sift through those applications, and then it could be a field, it could be locker rooms, it could be ensuring that they're gender neutral locker rooms, dressing rooms in the country. It could be lights on fields, better drainage, those sorts of things. We handed out about $1.5 million last year, which we think equated to about $8 million of upgrades when they add in council funding and state government funding that those organisations can get to. We're doing the second round right now, and that will be sort of something that we roll out each and every year to help support rugby league right across New South Wales.
Awesome. Tell me this, Joe. The Roosters have built a reputation as one of Australia's best run sporting organisations. How much of that comes down to culture?
An enormous amount of it. I think that's like fundamentally important, and you see that if you walk into the organisation on a daily basis. You see it if you come in once in a blue moon, and I have everyone that I do bring into the organisation acknowledge it, going, wow.
You can smell it.
Yeah, and you're greeted with it, like you're literally greeted with a handshake by every single player, staff member as you walk through the place. We stop and engage with each other every single day, and Robbo's had a massive part in growing that and developing that culture. When you think about it, and it took me a while to my journey of sport, but who's the one that actually spends more time with most of your employees each and every day? And that's the head coach. And so the I suppose the influence and moral compass that is directed by the head coach is really important, and Robbo's led a lot of that cultural sort of significance that you see within the Roosters. I think it's so fundamentally important.
This is Talking Real Estate. This is Talking Real Estate with John Gibson, your co-host Mark Warren. Our special guest is Joe Kelly. Locate, negotiate. Well, we've got two industry leaders, sports administration real estate industry leader. Locate, negotiate, smart advice, expert guidance, better property outcomes. Search John Gibson's Locate, Negotiate, and there's a lot of Gibson that comes out of the Roosters. Bloodlines at the Roosters. I almost do. You know, my first grand final ever was next door at the SCG in 1975. I think I was about 6 or 7, and a Mad Dragon supporter as a kid, and that flogging that Jack and the Roosters handed out. But anyway, I thought it was worthwhile small talk. But
sweet memories.
Well, it wasn't really. But anyway, on with the
I was
show.
only a young fella, mate.
On with the show. Today's players, they earn significant money at a young age. How important is it to educate them about life after football? I've heard Phil Gould talk about this a lot, particularly when you're picking these kids up at 15, 16, 17 pathways.
Yep.
It's so important, their education.
Yeah, no, it is. Look, the NRL do lead, in this space, around careers and education. We all have, employees in our organisation which are mandated by the NRL too, around supporting players through higher education, sort of university degrees, those sorts of things. And you have a number of players that do that, even at the elite level, and certainly, at the lower age group, it's really compulsory that kids are engaged in education or employment.
How do I say it, Gibbo? Help me here. So it's like they're at that tender age. I'm going to contradict myself here. Where I've heard Gould say that yes, you're on the verge of an NRL career, but at a certain age, that education almost has to be plan A. And it's hard for those kids in those ages, 16, 17, even 18 years of age.
Yeah.
We're on you got to remember, and correct me here, Joe, because you'll know the number.
Well, I think you've got to look at
the average.
What is the lifespan of
30
a
games.
rugby league player?
The average first grader plays 30
All right.
games.
Joe, is it 30 games?
Oh, look, yeah,
What would you think of it?
I haven't done the analysis and the stats, but I've heard that number quoted a number of times. So, we're conscious of that, and we will put on seminars ourselves for the players. You've got to be careful as the employer. You can't be providing professional or financial advice. You know what I mean? So you've got to create that distinction. And you don't want to be in a situation where you have provided that advice and that advice doesn't turn out to be good advice. So you've got to be quite careful about how you do that. But bringing independent people in, where you're not selling a service as such, but you're just trying to provide simple budgeting techniques and sort of helping them manage their money. Because you're quite right in that they're 15, 16, but when you think about your career across your whole work life, rugby league's going to be the first of those careers, and it's going to be a fairly short one. Yeah. Even if you get to the tender age of Daly Cherry Evans.
Wow, not many
just announced his, NRL.
1%.
His NRL career will come to an end at the end of this season. But even if you get to there, you'll be 36, 37 maximum. You're still going to have another career after that.
Yeah, you've got 23 years.
So you've got to, and they can do really well in their rugby league careers, but you've got to plan for that longer term future as well. So I think us establishing some support around them for that is really important, and we do that. We have a growing sort of department in that space to really help our players. As I say, education is vitally important. So seeing a lot of them, a lot of the players continue on with their education whilst even engaged as a professional footballer is really important.
Roosters don't seem to think in one season at a time. They do seem to. My observation is they look 5-10 years ahead. Is that a fair observation?
Yeah, I think what we tend to do is we tend to do it like a strategic plan, which we do. So we don't tend to do it. We do a strategic plan every 5 years. So we're sitting in the middle of the current strategic plan, 24 to 28. We'll start working on what the next one looks like in and around next year. And that plan was, I've been through a number of these processes, and the last one we've just done I thought was the best process I've ever been involved in terms of setting strategy for the next 5 years. That really included a lot of stakeholder engagement. We went off-site for a couple of days. That included head coach, Robbo, Strangey, all of these people being involved in setting that plan as well. And that what we're really careful to do is ensure that plan encompasses everyone in our group. So not only our football side of the business, but our licensed club side of the business. So that includes actually engaging with our staff at Berkeley, at Kingswood, in that process as well, setting our values, setting our strategic pillars. So one of which you are touching on really in a way, John, is one of our strategic pillars is building for our future.
Yeah.
So and so we're looking at what's the latest technology, and what infrastructure do we need as a football club into the future to ensure that we've got the capacity to give the best to our players as these programs evolve, and the player. We've got 13 teams. We talk about NRL and NRLW, but underneath that, you've got ball and mats, both here in Sydney and on the Central Coast. You've got Lisa Fiola, Tasha Gale, Jersey Flag. You've got Harvey Norman Opens age women's Sydney Shield, doing relationships with Glebe Dirty Reds, which we have, as well, and other pathways. So that continues to grow, and you've got to have the infrastructure that grows with that. So all that sort of investment needs to be thought of as well. So we are quite careful in our planning for building to the future, as well as we are also in acknowledging and honouring our past.
100%.
And that's something that I think we've done really well.
I think so
in the last 5 years.
Yeah.
I had Salvo come up to me on field after the game last week. I was having a quiet moment with my daughter, who was back from the US, where she's in college, and she said, "Dad, we took a photograph 3 years ago out here on the field after a game. Can we replicate the photograph?" So my wife took the photograph of the two of us, and then Salvo walked out and said, "Joe, just loving what the club's doing." As cool? You know, the Indigenous jersey was designed in his honour by his daughter this year. He got life membership earlier on in the year, and he said the connection back to the club over the last few years has been extraordinary. And felt a bit disconnected, I suppose, years ago, but that's been great, and that's just going back to really honouring our history.
Yeah, I've seen it firsthand, especially with our family. With Dad.
Yep.
And it's always, you guys have always, shown so much respect for him over the years.
Yeah.
And it's and his legend lives on.
Certainly does give over.
Yeah, no, absolutely.
It was wonderful there the other week to see John and his partner and the Jack Gibson. The Jack Gibson Trophy.
Yeah.
I think also on that night, Chad Robinson was honoured.
Absolutely.
Monique was there as well.
Absolutely.
At the same time, in Allianz, with a great media centre too, by the way. At the same time, in the Jack Brabham Lounge, you were hosting the Princess of Tonga, the Prime Minister of Tonga, and that's what I say. You can smell it. Look, I'm not a chook, right? Very close affinity with the bunnies, but however. You can smell the culture. You can smell the success. It's classy, and you've got people like Anthony Minicello gracing your suites.
Yep.
Just class.
Yeah, no, absolutely, and that was a great experience that night, which we caught up there as well. I just had a message off them this morning from Tonga saying what a great win last night. Yeah. So we're building those relationships, and that was obviously Toops' 300th.
Yes,
he's such an
Didn't
important
mention that. Okay.
part of our club. And we put on a lunch for them the day before as well, and just a really great way to celebrate. Toopsy, making that milestone and being the fifth player in the club's history to hit 300 at the club. Yeah,
it's incredible.
And no club's done that, by the way. 5 players with 300 games at the one club.
Just
quietly.
Yeah. Joe, AI is changing most industries. How do you see it changing professional sport over the next 5 to 10 years?
Yeah, we're dabbling in it. We hear about other clubs are getting involved in it, some more so than others. It'll change everything in our clubs, not just the football side of things, which we're certainly looking at it. I've got some demos even coming up in the next week to 2 weeks around some of that stuff from a footy perspective. But I even did my last set of board papers, which I told the board I did, through AI. So the way that I got my managers in the business sort of sending their reports into me, then we're collating that and then we're distilling that through AI. The opportunities, we're only touching the surface, to be honest, and maybe the world's only touching the surface at this stage. But I see it from an administrative point of view, certainly from a coaching perspective. We know that our sport, like all sports, is data analytic heavy. So I think the way that we can use AI in that space, like just even around the collation of audio and team meetings and things like that, and the way that all the conversations we have, how we can actually produce that through an AI engine as well, I think is something that clubs are working on. I think that it's a build towards your future. It's adopting. It's being an earlier adopter, I think, is important. It's certainly something that's front of mind for us.
Time-saving tool. It's like I just see it in my business, is that you just couldn't live without it right now.
Yeah.
Now you've got it on board.
Yeah.
And just the time it can save you.
Absolutely.
Reviewing a commercial lease or doing a strata report for someone. It just fast tracks everything. Gives you more time to do other business.
How much does it scare you in relation to businesses that employ hundreds of people? I
think people are looking at it. Everyone's got a different perspective on it. I think it's actually. I look at it as in a positive way.
Yeah.
I think it could actually enhance businesses, allow people to do more business.
Yeah.
That's the way I kind of look at it.
Okay.
And we run quite lean. Like, maybe that's not the outside perception.
Okay.
But we run really, really lean.
Yeah.
And across our licensed club portfolio as well, like a really lean management team. We're finding that it's allowing more time for decision making, and what I've been really interested in seeing is some of the outputs it provides and some of its own thoughts on how your business is operating. It's just given us a bit of a different lens on on looking at sort of key performance indicators and those sorts of things. There is a worry. Obviously, I think everyone's worried about, does it replace humans at a point in time? As I said, even across the footy club program, we don't have a real big resourcing infrastructure. We evolve that annually. We seem to bring a headcount in here or a headcount in there, but we only do it when it's absolutely necessary. So I don't sort of see that we have a situation where individuals are going to lose roles over it at a point in time. I think it just helps us be a lot better at what we do. And frees up that time for being more strategic as well.
Locate, negotiate, smart advice, expert guidance, better property outcomes. Search John Gibson's Locate, Negotiate, and our special guest, one of Australia's leading sports administrators from the Roosters, the East Group, Mr. Joe Kelly.
Joe, rolling back the clock, your first property.
Yeah.
Where did you buy?
Bought in London.
Do you still retain it?
I bought in London, 2003. We bought a little one-bedder in Clapham North.
What did you pay for it?
£210,000. That's when I was working at Chelsea. And that was our first property. We hung on to it. We then bought another one a couple of years later. That was the goal then in those days, just keep acquiring property. And then we left and moved back to Oz, sold the one that we were living in at the time, and then hung on to that very first one until about 2023. Sold it. So we had it for 20 years. Just rented it out for that period of time. We only lived in it for about 18 months. And then,
the return on rental investment good?
Yeah, good. Yeah, it was good. It was good. We would have more than doubled our money on it.
Nice.
You sort of get to the stage where you probably start to invest in it, because it was an old Victorian terrace that they divide a lot of those houses. You might have seen it, Mark, when you lived in the UK as well.
No, Chris did. I didn't. But all I hear about are these long leases, because he's tried to sell. He's still got a property there.
So ours was a lease, and I think we extended it because we owned the freehold.
50-year leases, am I right?
We owned the freehold and the leasehold.
Right.
So because we did that with the person that lived upstairs, we were able to sort of jointly extend the leasehold. We had about 60 or so years to run, I think, at the time, and rolled it out to 99 years again. It was a good return. It's looked after itself, but being an old Victorian terrace house that they converted, they start to need a little bit of work after a period of time. So we were sort of at that sort of sweet spot that this is the time to probably sell it.
Has your strategy been to sort of, retain property and build a portfolio, or you just doing it year by year if there's an opportunity, depending on the market? Do I sell out or I hold? Or
Yeah, well, I wish I could go back in time. I know that my wife, where she was working in recruitment over there, she worked with one guy in particular who just bought a new property, an extra property every 12 months, and built a really decent portfolio, even in a 2-year period. Actually, bought a new property every 3 months.
Yeah.
Wow.
Back in those days, you think about it, it was $210,000 to buy a 1-bed apartment. You needed 5% deposit, so you needed 10 grand. That's all you need to put down, and you could service that pretty comfortably.
Yeah.
Yeah, like all of us probably in life, we probably should have invested more
My goodness.
earlier. So that'd be my advice. Going back to talking about the players and the young players, etc. Get into property as soon as you possibly can, and keep building your portfolio. Globally, it only ever seems to go one way, and that's up. Like we had a plan, as I said, back in the UK, like let's start acquiring property, but then we sort of left and moved to Oz. Went on a bit of a journey here with property. We've had a number of houses here. Most we've ever owned is a couple. But like it's certainly done well. Done well for us.
It's a good way of getting ahead.
Good way of getting ahead.
Yeah.
And we're talking real estate with John Gibson. John Gibson's Locate, Negotiate, and our special guest, one of Australia's leading sports administrators from the Roosters, the East Group, Mr. Joe Kelly. Gibbo, we're into the final stretch. Where are we at?
Joe, what matters more, what you buy or what you pay when it comes to property?
I'd sit on the fence a little bit here and sort of a bit each way. I think it's important to negotiate strongly initially. There's going to be an exit one day, and knowing what you paid for it, knowing that there's upside there, and if possible, in terms of what you've already paid, is I think that's a positive.
Yeah.
I think the crucial thing is we all talk about location, and so. Yeah, I've seen that firsthand. I think it's important to buy in good areas. That's where the returns are, more so than those other areas.
Yeah. Renovate or buy finished?
Done both.
Yeah.
I've tended to renovate. We've tended to renovate. Well, I should say my wife has tended to renovate every property that we've bought to some level. And that's been against others suggesting that you're not going to make any money out of doing up this house because the next person will come along and knock it down. Well, I think what it's done is it's presented the house in such a positive way that you've had more interest in the house because I don't need to do anything. The next person's thinking I don't need to do anything. I can just move straight in. So we've done a lot of internals in a house over time, and as I say, it's helped us get ahead.
Biggest property mistake you think most people make?
Not buying. Just get in.
Yeah.
Just get in and buy and continue to acquire if you can.
Yeah.
And I'll go back to the chairman, Nick, who, say has been wonderful for me and wonderful to support me in that diversified role, which has included purchasing property. So I've learned a lot off Nick and his wisdom around property. But I do recall reading somewhere once upon a time, he said, you can't make a mistake in property if you hold it long enough.
Yeah.
So
take the long term.
Gibbo talks about the long game.
If you've got the long game. So even if you haven't necessarily nailed the location possibly and possibly the negotiation, you hold it long enough, you'll do okay. And I've seen that outcome.
Yeah.
Certainly.
Property, head or heart?
Head if you can.
Yeah.
Head if you can. It gets difficult. You can get emotional. I get it. I see it. I think if you can be more head driven, you'll probably do better in the outcome of a negotiation as well.
Yeah.
Looking back, what's been the toughest decision that you've had to make as CEO?
There's lots of tough decisions. It's never easy when you're actually sort of saying to someone that, you call them time, and I won't go into individuals or anything like that, but like when you've had to resize, repurpose the organisation, I've had to do that across a number of organisations. If you liked making those decisions, there's something wrong with you.
Well said. Well said.
It's difficult, and and having said that, and it's been and as difficult as it is at the time, as difficult it is for someone to take that news as well and receive that news. I've been pleasantly surprised to see that most people, if not all, have gone on to have even more rewarding careers post those decisions being made. So things can turn out for the best.
Hopefully the outcome of the work you put into those people.
Yeah. So that's the difficult thing. I think we're in a very much resource sort of based, a human resource sort of business. So it's people, it's players on the field, it's staff off the field. It's all about that for us. So it's a man management business, and so therefore dealing with individuals in difficult circumstances has certainly been the toughest challenges in my career.
Thank you for sharing.
What part of running an NRL club would genuinely surprise most people?
Look, I think they're not as big a businesses as you could possibly think from the outside. There's probably plenty of organisations around Bondi Junction, as an example, that would be bigger businesses, turnover, those sorts of things. But what we have is a really significant voice. We're on the back pages. I'm assuming we'll be on the back pages today for all the right reasons.
For all the good reasons.
For all the good reasons.
Yeah.
So, you have a large voice as a professional sporting organisation, and it's how you use that voice is really important. To garner community support, your social responsibility, all those sorts of things. But you're not really a big organisation when you think about the scale of your revenue streams.
Yes. Yeah.
So I think that would probably surprise a lot of people.
Yeah.
I don't know how you do what you do, okay, with your time management, your diary, etc. But tell me, what's the loneliest part of being the CEO? Because I can't see you ever being alone, as in singular. Can you tell me what the loneliest part of being a CEO is?
5 minutes before the board meeting.
I'd be scared of Mr. Politis.
I've been so fortunate, particularly here at the Roosters. The board have been so supportive, from day one. Nick has just been awesome. Just so enjoyed working with him. I keep so active, in terms of just the different roles and things that you've mentioned, like with New South Wales and USA, and I sit on a bunch of subcommittees, like with New South Wales as well, and we've got our little LA Roosters foray into the States.
You're passionate about that.
Passionate about that. I don't actually have really many lonely moments, if any at all. That's not answering the question really for you, unfortunately, Mark. But I've never sort of sat back
it's
and
all right. It's Gibbo's question. I'm just the mouthpiece.
Well, let's get on to the final question.
Where are the sombreros? No?
If you had to sum up the Roosters' success in one philosophy, what would it be?
It's really simple. And that's another external thing that you don't necessarily pick up on. I just think is that we work really hard for a common objective.
Yeah. Yeah. Team effort. Yeah.
We're dropping in 2 weeks, Gibbo. The combined question here. So why, you can put your Woodlawn Wingers jersey back on, channel it. Why are the Chooks going to win the premiership this year? And as this drops, we're heading towards the semi-finals, maybe a week out.
I caveat that, Mark, because
don't get ahead of yourself.
Caveat emptor.
We don't want to get ahead of ourselves. We know we've got an amount of work to do. We're really pleased with where we're at. We obviously aspire to be where we are on the ladder. But we know we've got a fair bit.
What time is that press conference?
We know we've got a fair bit ahead of us, and I'll let Robbo answer those sorts of curly questions.
Got to stay healthy and then get the job done.
Yeah.
Long way to go, but looking good.
I really enjoyed that. You meant to do that. All right. Gibbo, Joe Kelly. What a wonderful chat that was.
Thanks, Joe, mate. Appreciate you coming in.
Great to be on with you guys today. I really enjoyed it as well.
Good stuff. Appreciate it.
There he is, Joe Kelly, joins John Gibson, talking real estate, your co-host Mark Warren. Until we do it all again, it's bye for now.